Good morning, pilots. We had a request to explain our trim tuning reports for paragliders, and I'm going to try to do that for you. Obviously, I don't have high-tech camera work here, so bear with me. I'm holding an iPad on my computer. But anyhow, this is our report, one view of it, and this is the before retrim table. And then if you scroll down here, there's the after retrim table. And so if we look at the differences here, just at a glance, what do you see the difference between after retrim and before retrim is the red. So the red highlighted cells are the ones that are out of tolerance, that need to be adjusted so that everything looks like this, the after retrim report. Everything's green, so everything's within tolerance of factory spec, which is plus or minus 10 millimeters. And so at a glance, that's all some pilots need to know is, this is where we were before, and this is where we're at now. But for those of you, like myself, that want to know all the little details, we can expand here a little further. If you look at the A row, I don't know if you can see my cursor here, there it is. So the A row here, as well as the B row and the C row, they're all broken down into colors. So lines 1 and 2 are yellow for all 3 rows, as well as lines 3 and 4 are blue, and lines 5, 6, and 7 all the way across the green, and then the last couple lines are orange. And so what that indicates is the line groups for this specific glider. So every time we make a report, we will change those colors and brought them to the different line groups that are specific to that one paraglider. And then we average the answers, the results, down here. These are A line group averages, and this is B line group averages and C line group averages. And this is where the adjustment comes into play. We don't look at all the individual lines here. We need to look at just their line groups, because all these lines go to one main line on the riser, and we're going to adjust loops at the mullion on the riser. So the individual lines here, make no never mind, we have to look how they're grouped up. So we look down here, see how they average up here, and then this gives us an indicator where we need to make the adjustments on the mullion. So now if I scroll to the side here, I can see my before and after my mullion loops. So let's go over to that and show you quick. So this is the table that shows where the loops are on the mullions currently. So this specific glider is a Nova Ion 4, and it has DL, which is double loops on all of their mullions. This is not typical for all manufacturers. A lot of manufacturers will just have the double loops on the C row mullions and not the A's and B's. Some may have them on the stabilos in the C row, and some, like fee paragliders, won't have them anywhere. They have single loops everywhere. And they just intermix the line materials to compensate for the different shrinkages of different line materials. They'll have C lines, they'll have them all aramid, and where the A's and B main lines will be Dyneema, and it just goes on. There's a lot of different variations. But anyhow, after we make our adjustments, we'll scroll down, and you can see the table after retrim, and you can see our indicators show that it's where the changes are. We went from double loops to single loops on all these different mullions for the different lines. And so here's another blow up of how we make the different loops. There's a double loop, lark's foot, and so forth. But anyhow, that's not important for you all. Let me see what else I can show you that help you understand. So here's a graph is showing before retrim. This is all of the A rows. The blue's the B's, the purple's the C, and the yellow is the brakes. And so you can see there's a red line, horizontal line at the top, and one at the bottom, and that's plus or minus 10 millimeters. And we have to be in between those two to be within factory tolerance of spec. And so we can see we break that red horizontal line on the A row and the B row, and on the brakes as well. Whereas after we retrimmed, we got it all be in between. And if you look over here, this gives you more of a 3D aspect. Excuse me here while I try to scroll over. So here's before, and now we got the different line groups revealed. Here for the A's are the red, the B's are the blue, C's purple, and yellow's brakes. Now the blue, you notice there's on the outside, the wingtips, those are the ones that breach the horizontal line, minus 10 millimeters, and those are your stabilos. And that's very typical. Those will shrink faster than the other lines because they're lightly loaded. And see we've got a problem here with one of the A's, one of the A line groups, but the other ones are borderline. But we want to make that all better, so after we trim tune it, this is what we have here. And that's what we need to do, is have them all in between plus or minus 10 millimeters after our adjustments. And so that kind of gives you a gist of our report and how to read it. We want all green, and that's the end result. For now, you may have individual red spot, individual lines up here in the areas where we're not averaging the groups, and that's not as important as we want all the red gone in the line groups down here. When we average these lines, that'll come to the millions. So occasionally people have isolated red ones that aren't to be concerned with. It's all down here, A group, B group, C group, all the line groups. This is where the red's important. There's another thing we look at that's a little more technical that you probably don't really need to understand, other than what I've already mentioned, and that's pitch. We want to make sure that the pitch between A, B, and C row vertically, so like A1, B1, you can see my cursor here, A1, B1, and C1, can't have more than 4 millimeters difference between the B row. So between the B row here, we got +2, and the A row is -2. Well, we don't have more than 4 difference. And then here between the +2 and the +5, there's only 3 difference. And so here we're right at 4. And so those are the things that we look to do, is we want to keep the pitch right so that's in balance with the B row. So our angle attack is maintained. It's not either pitch speed, meaning trim fast, or pitch break, where it's trim too slow. And so those are technical things that we look at in order to evaluate. Not just eliminating the red, but we want to make sure that even if we got all green, like the table shows here, that our pitch between our A, B, and C rows is proper. And so that kind of gives you a good idea of how our forms are to be read, so that you can understand the results better. Take care.